Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this Wednesday night, April 22nd, 2026. We got a big surprise for you tonight. My granddaughter Cayman is in town. She is going to make an appearance in just a moment. It's going to be cuteness overload. So get ready for Cayman in the house. All right, before we do that, I want to tell you what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to have on Trevor Loudon, because look at this headline from my friend Daniel Greenfield. Southern Poverty Law Center was the largest funder of white supremacist groups. The SPLC had been financing what it claimed to be fighting. How many of you know about the Southern Poverty Law Center and its history? We're going to talk about it tonight. We know about them because look at this article from the Daily Caller. Back in April of 2018, the Southern Poverty Law Center was involved in shutting down my Worldview Weekend conferences. That's right. The Worldview Weekend conferences right there. Talks about it. They shut us down. We'll tell you all about it. We know very well about the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yeah. For how many years I've been telling you about the Hegelian dialectic process? Thesis and antithesis. Idea, opposite idea. They fight to cause people to want to compromise, to agree to, limiting free speech, limiting rights to certain groups. Well, to do that, you have to manufacture a crisis. You have to create problems where there really are no problems. You have to manufacture racism and all kinds of intolerance to justify hate crime laws and all kinds of things that the communists want. Remember how many years I've been talking about this? And yet, isn't this exactly what was going on with the Southern Poverty Law Center? A manufactured crisis, opposite groups fighting each other, only to find out now that they've been indicted by the Southern Poverty Law Center has been indicted for what? Well, the headline says it. Manufacturing racism, the manufactured chaos I talk about and have for decades now. Thank the Lord for the Trump administration. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it several times tonight so that anyone tuning in, because people are always coming in to watch, I want to make sure everybody hears it. House, you know what I like about House? He calls balls and strikes. He says when the Trump administration is doing something he doesn't like, but he's always very quick to praise the Trump administration when they do something good. I'm trying to do that. I'm just calling balls and strikes. And this is a big deal tonight because this group, the Southern Poverty Law Center, this is a bad group. We're going to tell you about them and their founder. All right? Tonight with Trevor Loudon. We do have some other good news tonight to report to you. Jonathan Turley has put this out this afternoon. We are having quite the night in the courts. A Virginia judge just blocked the state from certifying the results of Tuesday's congressional map referendum as unlawful. Judge Jack Hurley Jr. ruled that Democrats did not follow the correct procedures for a constitutional amendment. Thank you. There's not many good judges, not many at all. A lot of them are no good. They're politicians. They're political hacks. This one here happens to be one of the good ones. They're not many, but there are a few. Yep, that's they're trying to redraw the lines there in Virginia to add more Democrats to the House of Representatives. They're going to try to give the popular vote, whatever. No matter how the people in Virginia vote, they're going to give their delegates to whoever wins the popular vote in the whole national election. This is rigging the elections for the left. So we're going to get into all that tonight a little bit with Trevor Loudon. Now, I also want to have on, I pre-recorded an interview with Bob Cornuk. Look at this headline tonight from the New York Post. The New York Post has this headline. Archaeologist thinks new tech could reveal where the lost Ark is hidden. Talk about the Ark of the Covenant. Bob Cornuk has been looking for the Ark of the Covenant for years. For years. Okay. We have another article out tonight about Noah's Ark. I gotta see if I can find that real quick. Bob Cornuk has spent years looking for Noah's Ark as well. I think I saw that over at the Daily Caller today, didn't I? Let's see here. Noah's Ark. But Bob has been a friend of mine for over 30 years. Search for Noah's Ark. 2026 Daily Mail. Because I saw the article today. I meant to bring it up before we went on the air, but here we go. Here it is. Here it is. Noah's Ark mystery deepens as underground tunnels found in Turkey Mountain match Bible blueprint. Well, are they? Is that really? This is something that was found back, I think, in 1959. We've talked about it before over the years. Is it really Noah's Ark under there? What about these scans? Let me ask Bob Cornuk about this, who has been looking for Noah's Ark, the Ark of the Covenant, all of that for a long, long time. I pre-recorded an interview with him this afternoon. I want to bring that to you tonight as well. What else do we have? I know I have some other news stories here I wanted to bring to you. Let's see what else we got. Here it is. I have a new article. I did an hour of radio and TV on this today, and I have it as an article. I hope you'll go to worldviewtimes.com and share it with your family and friends. Why Jesus did not go to hell to suffer for our sins. The biblical truth about Sheol, paradise, Hades, hell, the lake of fire, Gehenna. It's all there in this article. Lots and lots of scripture. It's a very important topic because there are false teachers out there teaching that Jesus went to hell to burn off some more sins, as though the work on the cross wasn't enough. There are people that teach the idea of soul sleep. When you die, you go to soul sleep. You kind of just are asleep. You don't know what's going on. And then later you'll wake up years from now when it all gets kicked off for the end times. And everyone goes to heaven then. Soul sleep. That's not in the Bible. You're going to see in this article, absent from the body is present with the Lord. When on the cross, Jesus said to the thief, today, surely you shall be with me in what? Paradise. Well, where was paradise? Jesus said to the religious leaders of his day that wanted a sign, he said, I'll give you, it's a wicked generation that asked for a sign, but I'll give you one, the sign of Jonah. As Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days, so shall the Son of Man be in the earth. And he went to the depths of the earth, and that's where the Bible describes was a place called Sheol, or also known as Hades. And there was a gulf, a chasm. And on one side were those who were in judgment and flames. And on the other side of the chasm was where there was comfort and rest. And it was known also as being in the bosom of Abraham. Paradise. But a lot of false teachers say Jesus had to go down there to hell and burn off some more sins, and he was tormented by the demons and whatnot. No, he confronted the demons, announced his victory, and after 3 days resurrected. And then at the end of his ministry here on earth, he visited with his disciples, about 40 days after the resurrection, and ascended into heaven. And the scripture says that is also when he went down there to paradise in the earth, scooped up the Old Testament prophets and took them off now to what is called paradise in heaven. Interesting. It was called paradise when it was Sheol on that one side. The other side was judgment. But it's also called paradise once they were taken into glory. I get into all of this in my show today in great detail. It's very important. We knock down a lot of theological lies and doctrines today. And I explained today on my radio show and TV show, why is it that false teachers want to say that Jesus went to hell as a man? He ceased to be God when he died, went down to hell as a man, defeated Satan as a man. And because he defeated Satan as a man, we too can defeat Satan as men. Why do false teachers teach this kind of garbage? And I believe it's because they want to bring God down to man's level and raise man to God's level. Very much like Mormon theology, which says what? As man is, God was. As God is, man shall become. because Mormonism teaches that every man, Mormon man who has his marriage sealed in the temple can become as gods, have their own planet, and populate them. Go research Mormon doctrine. Isn't it interesting that a lot of the world's religions want to relegate the Lord as just being a man, and that man can aspire to be as the Lord God? They want to bring God down to man's level so they can raise man up to God's level. And this is exactly what you see in much of the false teaching in like the Word of Faith and the cults. So today in our hour show and in this new article that I wrote last night and early this morning, we're destroying a lot of false theology, which is what we're called to do, to be like Bereans who examine the scriptures daily, to see even if what Paul said was true, right? So I hope you'll go there, worldviewtimes.com. I hope you'll read it. I hope you'll share it. And if you want a more in-depth version of the article, I spent an hour on this on radio and television today that you'll find at worldviewtube.com. All right. Now, we love to go through all these old videos. I spent about 2 hours last night going through a bunch of old master tape DVDs from 2004 forward. And boy, do we have a lot of them. And what we're doing is we're making sure that all of our old presentations that were squashed down and had to be crunched down in quality in order to go up online when half the country was still on dial-up. I've said to the team, we need to get everything up on our website, replace the old versions with the highest resolution versions that we have, so our content is saved and archived at the highest quality possible. I also want to know where all my master tapes were, so that we can make sure they're in our vault, our literal vault, but also our online vault, but our literal fireproof vault, so that we don't lose our archived master tapes. So I'm spending a lot of time the last couple of years finding stuff I forgot we even had, including forgetting I'd even produced some documentaries on the New Age movement and stuff I forgot I even did and had. It's crazy the amount of stuff we've done in 36 years. No wonder we've forgotten what we've done. And so anyway, I've also been going through a bunch of home videos and forgot that we had some of these home videos as well. Well, you know I love showing the home videos. And it's amazing how many emails we get and people saying they love watching the home videos, how fun they are. Well, I think I showed you a video last week of myself slalom water skiing. But I told you, Miss Melissa, she was a slalom water skier before I was. I knew how to ski, but not slalom. I had to learn to slalom ski because I started dating her and her family was big into skiing. And I'm like, I got to learn to slalom. So I had my former high school youth pastor teach me how to slalom. And so I showed you the video. We found that video. That was fun. A lot of you liked it and saw Summer barking at me while I was water skiing and ducking between the ski rope at the back of the boat. Well, I did find a video of Melissa and her two sisters water skiing with her two first cousins. They're two brothers, my father-in-law and his brother. There's Brad and then there's Bruce. They're brothers. And Brad had 3 daughters. That's my father-in-law. He had 3 daughters, Melissa being one of them. And Bruce, my buddy Bruce, who's still alive and well, Bruce had 2 daughters. And so you had 5 girls there. And they all grew up together in the same town for most of their life. And there's a few years where they are out in Washington State, and then they moved back to the Midwest, to Rockford, Illinois. And the girls grew up together more like sisters than they were cousins. And they did family vacations together, and there's a very close-knit group. And they love to go on vacation every year, and they love to water ski, all of them. And the dads grew up water skiing. The 2 brothers grew up water skiing. They have some funny stories about their first boat they went in together to buy. And they love to water ski. And so they taught their kids how to water ski. And then the girls love to water ski together, all 5 of them. Now, I found a video of them doing that, so I thought you guys might like to see it. Logan, this is your mother and your 2 aunts and then your 2 second cousins. How many attempts did they make before all 5 of them could get up there? Did we put all of them in there, or did we just go to the one successful take? 2 failed, and then they got up. All right, let's go to it. Here we go. Here are the 5. This is kind of fun. This is crazy, the stuff I'm finding in the family videos. Here we go. Are you counting 5 there? 1, 2, 3, 4.
There they go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there's 5 of them. That's Uncle Bruce's boat.
Sight.
That's Melissa's dad, Captain. They have the best memories, those girls do. Talking about growing up, going on family vacations together, water skiing like that. See if they come back by, we get a closer shot. Can you tell which one's your mother, Logan?
Yeah, they come around.
Me neither.
For a close pass.
Now, the one on the left, far left, has got on 2 skis. The one on the far right has 2 skis. There's a couple of them in the middle that are slalom. Right? Yeah. All right, there's your mother. Whoa, go back. Can you make it go back? I think that was your mother. Whoop. That's your mother. Oh man, it's so hard to tell. That's not your mother. That's Melody. I think your mother is that one in the middle there. She's slalom, isn't she? She's not on 2. She's slalom. I know she wouldn't try to get up on 2. She's too like, I'm not doing that. I'll get up on 1. Show that pass again, because you can see they're clearly doing a slalom now that I know who's who. Your mother is the 3rd one over, right? I think so too. Yeah, your mother's 3rd one over. I had the best time doing that.
Here they come again. Beautiful day at the Ozarks.
Yeah, they were out there on Lake of the Ozarks. Melissa had been vacationing there since she was 7. And then we started, after I married her, years later, we started our Worldview weekends on Lake of the Ozarks. Our national conference. We're all waving. Now, it's a good thing I'm the family archivist because, you know, out of all of them, I'm the only one that has most of these. And I've spent quite a bit of time going through all my father-in-law's videotapes, pulling everything out, making sure it's up digital, and then sharing it all with them digitally so they all have it to save. I've taken a ton of his 8mm. I had a ton of 8mm videos of the girls when they were babies and really little. Oh, there you go. And I've saved all those. So I'm kind of the family archivist because I love history. I love family history. I love regular history. I love all of that stuff. That's fun to watch. Isn't it, Logan? Was there anything else on that video that was of interest? Not really? What else is on there? Oh, there's your mother. I haven't seen that forever.
There's the covered boat well where Bruce and I keep the boats. View down the lake. There's the Niagara Bridge, which we've gone under many times the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, they would go for 2 weeks.
And sometimes the wharf.
And they talked about it all year long. They would talk about the previous year, and they would talk about the upcoming trip. They lived for that 2 weeks. And those 2 guys worked really hard, and they loved taking their 5 girls together on that 2-week trip every year. All right, that's fun. I just thought you might like to see it. I told you Melissa could slalom, so I wanted to show it. She wasn't doing all the zigging and zacking, cutting, because there's too many of them there, but I'll find some more of her doing that so we can see her actually really throwing rooster tail. Oh my goodness.
Look at Mom. Brian, come here.
Look at that catfish.
Okay, let's get out of the way of the picture now.
Now that's my brother-in-law.
Bradley.
That's a catfish, right, Logan? Now he is caught. I have got pictures of him catching what I know to be a 50-pound catfish. I don't know what that one weighed, but I got a picture of him. That's his little boy who's got children of his own now. I got a video. Is that your mom back there? Yeah, go back. Who is she holding? I don't think you guys were born yet there. Oh, the camera on her shoulder? I know. That's how big they were, guy. That's how big they were. They were huge. And they weren't cheap, I'll tell you that. They look like a carp, you think? Okay. Well, I've got one of him, holding a catfish that he caught there. And we weighed that baby, and that was 54 pounds. That's a carp? Okay. Well, I've got one, like I said, picture of him holding a 54-pound catfish he caught right off the dock. Can you believe that? That was fun. Anything else on there? That's it. Huh? All right. All right. All right. All right. Are you guys ready to get a little visit here from Cayman? It's coming up. But before we do, let me play another great video. You want some good news? RFK Jr., I've had the privilege of interviewing RFK Jr., and there are things that I would not agree with him on, but there are things that I definitely would agree with him on. And I just have to tell you, between him and Senator Ron Johnson, I just am so thankful for what these guys have done in so many regards. Again, I just got to call out the positive when I see it. We all need hope. We all need to hear good news. Here we go. Listen to this. This just took place.
Finally, let's just put up this graph. Because of your radical transparency, I've got close to 11 million pages. We uncovered they hid the signal on myocarditis. We also just recently uncovered that they also hit a signal on ischemic stroke for people over 65, but the tail end 2022, 2023. They hid both signals. They downplayed them. But what is most alarming, and we'll be holding a hearing on this next week, I've got a draft report. They were made aware, Peter Marks was made aware on March 26th of 2021 that the inventors of the algorithm that analyzes the VAERS data was going to mask adverse events. He was told that by using a different system, they had uncovered 49 examples of extreme masking, 25 significant adverse events, including sudden cardiac death, Bell's palsy, pulmonary infarction. So this report will be issued in conjunction with that hearing. Again, I didn't need a sophisticated mathematical model to tell me that we had safety signals screaming at us. This chart shows the deaths associated with vaccines all the way going back to 1990 when VAERS started, a couple hundred a year. Anaphylactic shock, that type of thing. 2021, over 20,000 deaths, and for 5 years, FDA has been saying, we don't see a signal. This was a signal screaming at us that to this very day, we are covering up. So there are a bunch of people involved in this cover-up that still continue to work within the HHS, CDC, FDA. I want your commitment that those people will be made available for interviews. I'll have to subpoena others. I'm going to dig into this massive government.
Good for him. Good for Senator Ron Johnson. By the way, did he say that he had 11 million pages? He had 11 million pages, and I think he said that was because of the help that he'd been given by RFK Jr., and thus he had 11 million pages. So thank you, Senator Ron Johnson. Thank you, RFK Jr., for all you're doing in that regard. Excellent. All right. Now, make sure, guys, before we have a little visit here by Cayman, I'm told in my ear, make sure you go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We are a listener-supported network. We got to have your support to push out all this free, great content. Worldviewvitamins.com, worldviewvitamins.com. There you can find out about your basic for women 50 plus, men's daily, women's daily if you're not 50 plus, teen and college, the magnesium, all those things that we talk about with Dr. Bashima at worldviewvitamins.com. You know the vault, that's where we've archived 36 years of radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, and more. Worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. melissaprotein.com. This is selling like hotcakes. I got an email this team showed me of a gentleman that's taking these now. He ordered them. He's taking them. He emailed in and he said after getting on these, he no longer needs his afternoon nap. And I mentioned that to Melissa. She said, yes, it gives you a lot of energy. He said he no longer needs his afternoon nap. Well, there you go. You might want to check that again. melissaprotein.com, melissaprotein.com. That's Dr. Bashima Williams behind that. Okay. These are great products, I think, that will support your health and support us at the same time. You know, I take the Gatatana every day. That is the powerful phytoplankton. I give half a scoop to Dolly on her food. I drink it every night with my dinner. The Worldview water, that filters out all the nasty chemicals and toxins, some of them that are cancer causing, by the way. So why would you not want to have a really, really good water filter? Worldviewwater.net. MelissaHouseBG.com. That's the Bella Grace. That's the Numi. Excuse me. That's the Bella Grace. That's the Bella Melts. I don't know if we have the gummies up there yet, Logan. Have we gotten those gummies up there yet? We need to get their new gummies up there that are... what is the gummies, Logan? Not the Bella Melt, the gummies that is the IV like Chad does. NAD, yeah, the NAD. We got to get those up there. Will you remind me to get those up there? Okay, MelissaHouseBG.com or WorldviewTube.com sponsors for Bella Grace. Worldview Talk. Get your satellite phone, get your solar generator, get your bulletproof backpack, all the great things at worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. Okay. Squish for Life. That's the Numi. Are they ready, Logan? Tell them, let's go. That's the Numi, which is the glutathione to detox your cells. And I'm really excited because, you know, I've been telling you that studies show that glutathione may remove mercury from your brain to help prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Well, we learned the other night that it helps take out all of these metals, mercury, lead, aluminum, all of it. So you should be swishing like I do every day. Melissa swishes every day. I've already swished today. Swishforlife.com, glutathione, over 165,000 studies on glutathione. Worldviewhealthcare.com. That is where you get your antibiotic kits, your emergency kits. So you have it all on hand so that if you have an emergency, need antibiotics, you have what you need without having to go to urgent care. You can be your own urgent care. So all of it is at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right. Okay. Uh-oh. Hop back in here, Mom. Hop back in here, Mom. She does better if she doesn't see you. All right, Cayman, you are on television, girl. Are you glad? Oh, that's that big. Are you going to cheese for us? I think she was already cheesing, Libby. She was already doing her little cheese smile. Hi, Mommy. I'm not Mommy. I'm Papa. Can you say Papa? Papa. Yeah, Papa. How are you doing? Can you say fine? What do you got there? What is this? It's a little chicken? Chicken, yeah. Do we have any flashcards? We did that before. Ooh, look at there. There you are again. Well, welcome back to Tennessee. We're glad to have you back. Did you have a good flight? Were you on an airplane last night? You didn't get in here till well after midnight. So you're doing, I love your outfit. It's so cute. Oh, there's your mom. What is it you're saying? What were you saying? I don't know. Mom knows all the questions to ask you. What do I ask her? What does she know? How old are you, Cayman? How old are you? Yeah, that's the microphone. How old are you? 2. Yeah, that's right. What else do we need? What sound does a dog make? You hear the dogs down there wrestling and carrying on? I like your bow. Woo, that made you jump. Hey, I like your bow. Did you know that was your mother's bow when she was little? Yeah, that made you jump again. Those crazy dogs. Those crazy dogs. That was your mother's bow when she was a little girl. Did you know that? Your little outfit's so cute. Oh, let's see how tall she's gotten. Oh, hang on. Let's see how tall you've gotten. What? that? That sounds like a fake cry to me. You want to show everybody how tall you've gotten? Here. Why don't you stand up? Stand up. Stand up. Let's show them how tall you've gotten. You've gotten so tall. Maybe you should show your face in here again. Maybe you should show your face again, Mom. There's Mom. What is going on? You know what? Oh, the dogs are upsetting her? All right. Well, everybody wanted to see a happy Cayman tonight. Hey, can you sing the Itsy Bitsy Spider? The Itsy Bitsy, oh yeah? Itsy Bitsy Spider. Can you sing it? Can you sing it? Twinkle, twinkle, little star? No? You don't know if you want to smile or cry or cheese for the camera. You can't really decide, can you? Look how tall you got. Wait a minute. Are these new shoes? Cayman. Cayman, do you have new shoes?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, those are really cute. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
How I wonder
What you are, like a diamond in the sky. You're really intrigued by that microphone. Are you going to grow up and come onto our broadcast team? Yeah, you're going to be a broadcaster? You are a little cranky, but that's to be expected. You were up till 2 a.m., which was really 3 a.m. your time. So you've kind of gotten off your schedule. Yes.
How are you?
Yeah, normally I'm really happy. I say, how are you? You say, happy. Happy, yeah. Tell everybody, who am I? Huh? You want to put that microphone up higher? Yeah, okay. There you go. Or you want to sit down so you can talk into it? All right, sit right there. Sit right there. All right. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Huh? She says it a million times a day.
Cayman. Who's that? Papa.
Yeah, Papa. You're kind of serious today, but I think you're tired. We'll have you back on next week when you're rested after your long journey. Your shoes are sure cute. You like shoes, aren't you? You're like your mom and grandmother. You love shopping and clothes and shoes, don't you?
Her bracelet.
Oh, where's your bracelet? Show me your bracelet. Let's show me your bracelet. Wow, that's pretty. It's pink. That's a pretty pink bracelet. Wow. All right.
Her hair.
Your hair is pretty. Yep, there it is.
Nose.
Where's your nose? Yep, that's your nose. You are tired still, aren't you? Yeah.
Where's your eyes?
You didn't nap very long today, did you? There's your eye and your cheeks. Yep, that's it. Yep.
Your feet. Where are your feet?
Yep, they're right there with your new shoes on. Yep. Where's Papa's glasses? Where are my glasses? No, where are my glasses?
Where's Papa's glasses? Papa. Where's Papa's glasses? His sunglasses?
They're on his face. Yeah, right there.
Did she put them together? And
Can you do that? Can you take them apart and put them together? You love doing that game.
very serious.
You're very serious today. This is not normally like you. Yeah, you're a little tired, I think. All right, give me a kiss and we'll go back to Mom. Mwah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's so sweet. Go back to Mom.
Say bye-bye, Papa.
Say bye-bye.
Everyone, can you go this?
Oh, you don't want to go bye-bye? Do we have a better shot than that, Logan? Okay, what's Mommy? What'd you say?
Cuddle, cuddle.
Oh, cuddle, Mommy? All right, well, go cuddle. Go cuddle with Mommy. Can you walk across the news desk to Mom? Yeah, say bye-bye.
Say bye-bye, Papa.
Yeah, bye-bye, Papa. Bye-bye, Cayman. Do you want your chicken? There you go. What do you say? Thank you. You're welcome. All right, we'll try to get you on next week when you're a little bit happier and had more rest. It's understandable. You were up till 3 a.m. Papa is kind of tired himself, by the way. Yeah, bye-bye, Cayman. All right, well, there you go. There you go. We get a lot of emails on that one whenever we have her on, Logan. You know that, right, Logan? Yeah, people love that. All right, let's again remind you guys, don't forget worldviewfoundation.com. We're going to get started here with our first guest, Trevor Loudon, worldviewfoundation.com, folks. We're a listener-supported network, worldviewfoundation.com. All right, let's get started. Joining me now is Trevor Loudon. Look at this headline from our mutual friend Daniel Greenfield. Southern Poverty Law Center was the largest funder of white supremacist groups. The SPLC had been financing what it claimed to be fighting. How much do you know, my friends, about the Southern Poverty Law Center? Well, we know quite a bit here at Worldview Weekend and Worldview Tube. Look at this headline right here. From back in 2018, Antifa and the Southern Poverty Law Center successfully shut down 4 anti-Islam conferences. Well, there you go. That was us. That was our Worldview Weekends. Antifa groups used information from the Southern Poverty Law Center to successfully shut down the conferences on the threat of Islam scheduled in Wisconsin and Minnesota last weekend. And of course, what they're talking about is the conferences were hosted by Worldview Weekend. That's my organization. I founded with my wife in 1993. According to Worldview CEO Brandon House, a state trooper visited the Minneapolis hotel where an event was planned for Sunday. He said the police were concerned about conference security and the organizers should add more police. With the financial losses from other canceled events, House said they could not afford to provide more security than those already hired and canceled the last event out of safety concerns. The conference sought to expose how leftists supported George Soros, the John Templeton Foundation, and other donors are intimidating America into silence by labeling anyone who exposes them as, quote, racist, Islamophobes, and white supremacists, end quote. Well, isn't that interesting? Our conference was about showing how these groups do this, and they did it. And they shut us down in 4 out of 5 cities, the 3 of the 5. The first one we got carried off, Des Moines, Iowa. Although we had protesters out there, we had someone that had to be removed from the auditorium, a transgender nut job. We had some Islamic folks walk in their full bathrobes and towels. We had a Marxist in the front row get up and interrupt the evening at one point. We had people out front protesting, saying we were Nazis. That was Des Moines, Iowa. We only got that carried off because the people that own the hotel, that's the family of Tamara Scott. Her husband and brother-in-law own the hotel, and they refused to cancel us. If it wasn't for the fact that Lowell Scott and his brother are courageous people, they would have canceled us because other people the next morning pulled our contracts after they put out all of this stuff on social media calling for just that, for people to call the hotel venues. And we got calls from hotel venues in April of 2018 saying, we can't, we got too many threats, physical threats against the building. We're pulling your contracts. The last one was so we got canceled in La Crosse, Wisconsin, Green Bay, Milwaukee. The next city, and the last city on the 5-city tour, that swing we were doing, was in Bloomington. To our surprise, they didn't cancel us, but they said we had to add a lot more security because the state trooper is like, I don't know who's holding this event, but we're getting a lot of chatter on it, and you better add more security. So the hotel called me and said, you have to have at least 5 cops here. And again, the issue was, well, we just lost out on all of the offerings we were going to take in these other cities, which would have offset all the advertising and printing and mailing and email blast we'd already done and paid for. We couldn't recoup our cost in those. Now you want us to spend money on more security. So we had to cancel that one, the last one, as the article says. Let's see. One of the conference speakers was John Guandolo. It went on to talk about that. So now look, red and black anarchist. That's the Fox Valley Antifa's post. Folks, this was back in 2018 when a lot of people still had not figured out what Antifa was all about and Black Lives Matter. Okay. We were getting threatened. There's our Green Bay conference, right? And this article here documents a lot of the stuff that was going on. The Fond du Lac anti-fascist group, right? An article published by the Southern Poverty Law Center shows the following dates and locations. Okay. So we've been on the receiving end of what, and here's what happened. Good afternoon, Brandon. I want to inform you that we'll be canceling your event that's scheduled for this Saturday. The hotel has received numerous phone calls from the community opposing this event and threatening to protest. We need to ensure the safety of our guests come first. So with that in mind, we'll be canceling this event. I left you a voicemail as well. Should you have any further questions about this, please reach out to me directly. My email was redacted, or my work number redacted. Okay, General Manager. Congratulations were not limited to Antifa groups. For example, below is the text of an email sent out by a group called Wisdom Wisconsin that references the Southern Poverty Law Center. Okay? This is a public service provided to American citizens, I said, because we are concerned for the future of America. House told the Daily Caller. We pay the cost for renting the facilities, advertising the events in local markets, printing flyers, bringing in speakers, including airfare, car rental, hotel, speaker fees, and other expenses, and charging nothing for the events. We do try to recoup some of those costs through book sales and voluntary donations, but it's never enough. According to House, a combined total of at least 3,500 people have been registered for the 4 canceled events, more than 1,500 in Minneapolis, another 2,500 in 3 Wisconsin sites. The cancellation of these events cost us well over $60,000, House said. That's right. And that doesn't include lost ad revenue and other opportunity costs, he told the DC. We promoted these events for 6 months, including 40,000 mailings in December, another 40,000 in January, and used up valuable staff time that could have been spent on other endeavors. The hotel manager at the Des Moines event told the DC Daily Caller that the hotel does not have a litmus test for events. Quote, we rent facilities to groups with a wide variety of opinions and interests across the spectrum, politically, philosophically, and otherwise. Our goal is to see that each of them receive the highest quality of service we can provide, end quote. So, look at it. Here we go. Let's see. The manager said the protesters showed up and did all they could to disrupt the proceedings without pushing it far enough to get thrown out by police. House said that when he handed out brochures intended for the audience, one protester snatched the whole stack and put it in his backpack. This was in Des Moines. He was forced to return the brochures when approached by police. These attendees were described as rude and intimidating. One person did get asked to leave was Jack Sculler, a local high school teacher. According to the Des Moines Register, Sculler is a transgender activist who was born a woman named Elsie, but since April 2016 now identifies as a man. He also claims to have been a Marine, but his Facebook profile photo shows him wearing an Army t-shirt, something a Marine is very unlikely to do. Schuler had been walking around the event, snapping photos of everyone in attendance, posting more than 24 of them on Facebook with disparaging comments about the attendees. Yeah, I think that was the one that shoved his camera in my face as well. You remember all this, Logan? You were along for it, weren't you? How old were you in 2018 when this happened? You were 15. House, suspicious of Schuler, asked if he was carrying a gun. Schuler snapped a picture of House and posted on Facebook with a comment, quote, this guy asked me if I had a gun in my bag. Remember, kids, the Second Amendment is only for white people to use against brown people, end quote. Yeah, CARE didn't like that we were there. That's Muslim Brotherhood. CARE, Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas. This is what we went through. That's what we went through. And it looked like the Southern Poverty Law Center was behind getting it all kicked off. And for some reason, we weren't able to sue them. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that these voting machine companies and all these other people can sue Mike Lindell and everybody under the sun? Well, look what we went through in 2018. And when we tried to bring legal action, we were told virtually it's impossible. Let me tell you something. Our whole legal system is corrupt from the top down, from the bottom up, the top down, from the right to the left to the right, corrupt. It's normally a made-up game. The legal system in America is largely a made-up game. They make the rules as they go, depending on who you are. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is look at how they've treated Donald Trump and other conservatives and Christians versus how Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and the Marxists and the Islamists get treated. We may be in the Trump years, and it's better than having Kamala, but we are anything from being a free country. We're still a quasi-socialist country, and our legal system is as corrupt to the core. And you can see it with all the stupid rulings by one court after another against the Trump administration, just carrying out public policy that nobody would have said anything about if it had been another administration other than Donald Trump. Most of everyone involved in our legal system, they are corrupt to the core. And this, I believe, is how groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center have gotten away with it so long. Now, the question is, what will happen now that they reportedly have been indicted for, again, according to all the headlines, funding the white supremacist groups they claim that they were fighting? Joining me now is Trevor Loudon. Trevor, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brennan, How are you?
Good. I'm good. What do you make of my opening monologue on all this? I mean, what were you thinking as I was reading all this off in the history and everything?
Well, the Southern Poverty Law Center called me a white supremacist. With
They called you
zero
that?
evidence.
They called you that?
They called me that. Plus, well, it wasn't them, but when you're talking about the venues being closed, Antifa tried to close a venue of mine out in Missoula, Montana. But thankfully, the manager of the hotel was Belgian. Her parents were murdered by the Nazis, and she wasn't having a bar of it. She kept that hotel open. But I've had so many people tell me stories similar to yours, Brandon. So this is right on, and we've suspected for a long time that this is what the Southern Poverty Law Center has been doing. They're a militant communist organization with zero credibility, but the FBI for the last many years has been using their bogus statistics in their hate crimes reports. Well, I hope that's going to be stopping pretty soon.
I understand that they were founded back in 1971, was it?
About that time, yeah, by Morris Dees.
Morris Dees.
He's had a lot of legal trouble of his own.
Tell me about him. Tell me about Morris Dees.
Well, he's a look. I don't know that much about Morris Dees other than that he was prosecuted pretty heavily not long back for some nefarious activity. But in the early days, he had actual Marxists on his board. You know, like the state senator from Georgia, his name just escapes me. But, it's always been a Marxist organization. They've even had pro-North Korean activists working at senior levels within the organization.
They even it says here on Discover the Networks, if you go to discoverthenetworks.org, that's the late...
David Horowitz.
Thank you, his center. They talk about Dees, who was the founder, right, of Southern Poverty Law Center. They say that in '65, Dees bought out Fuller's share of the marketing firm. Dees continued to have great success in that field, that he was eventually inducted into the Direct Marketing Association Hall of Fame. Enthralled with his own affluence, Dees in the 1960s purchased a 6,000 square foot home on a 200-acre estate complete with a pool, tennis courts, and stables. But he experienced an epiphany of sorts in 1967 during what he describes as a night of soul-searching at a snowed-in Cincinnati airport, and decided that he would sell his business and speak out for my black friends who were still disenfranchised even after the Voting Rights Act of 1965. As he would later write in his autobiography, A Season for Justice, this epiphany was sparked by his realization that little had changed in the South because the whites held the power and had no intention of voluntarily sharing it. In '69, Dees sold his marketing publishing enterprise to the Times-Mirror, the parent company of the Los Angeles Times, and resolved to specialize in civil rights law. In '71, he used profits from the sale to formally incorporate, in conjunction with Julian Bond and Joseph
Julian Bond was a Marxist. I couldn't remember his name. He was a member of Democratic Socialists of America, a hardcore Marxist.
And then he was going to work with Joseph Levin, the Montgomery-based Southern Poverty Law Center, as a tax-exempt charitable organization. Notwithstanding the ostensibly selfless aims of this endeavor, SPLC would prove to be more lucrative for Dees than anything he'd ever done as a marketer. A key to SPLC's early success was the experience Dees gained as finance director for the Democrat George McGovern's failed 1972 presidential campaign. In that role, Dees raised more than $24 million from nearly 700,000 small donors, impressive numbers by the standards of that era for McGovern. So grateful was McGovern for Dees' work on his behalf that the senator subsequently agreed to let the Southern Poverty Law Center founder use his mailing list of campaign donors as a resource for soliciting contributions to the civil rights group. In '75, Dees was arrested and removed from court for attempting to suborn perjury by means of a bribe on behalf of the defendants in a North Carolina murder trial. Though the felony charges against Dees was subsequently dropped, the presiding judge refused to readmit him to the case. The refusal was upheld on appeal. He was hopeful of being named the U.S. Attorney General, served as a national finance director for Jimmy Carter's presidential run. But Dees rapidly lost enthusiasm for what he perceived as the campaign's ideology and tactical moderation. You've got a candidate who's way out on the extremes, he said. All right, so then he went on to do fundraising for Ted Kennedy, Gary Hart. What more do you know about this group before we get to what's out about them now?
Well, they apparently had something like over $300 million in offshore accounts not long ago. You know, I think Virgin Islands and all this kind of thing. They've got a lot of money.
I heard the number was 750 million, as high as 750 million.
Yeah, well, that could well be right. I don't know. I knew it was well over 300 million at one point, and mainly in offshore accounts, I believe. So it's not a poverty-stricken organization, despite its name, but it has been one of the most powerful and insidious and corrupt and dishonest Marxist organizations operating in the country for a very long time. And it's gotten a lot of credibility and never deserved, you know. Look, they compile these list of hate crime statistics, right? And what it is somebody complains on Facebook. Somebody saw something on a bus. There's no police reports. There's no photographic evidence. There's no even any police complaints. This is just pure anecdotal. They compile these and give it to the FBI, and the FBI goes after certain groups because of it. Or it's used to promote hate speech laws around the country. It is a very evil and corrupt organization, and they have slandered many of our friends over the years. People like Frank Gaffney, real patriots, regularly have been slandered by this organization, and it's so joyous to see they may finally get their comeuppance. They may finally be exposed for the corrupt organization that they are.
Absolutely. Here's an article from AMAC, and they're reporting poverty nonprofit that smears conservatives has millions in offshore accounts, IRS records show. This is back in July of 2025. Despite its name, the Southern Poverty Law Center has an endowment of more than 700 million. 738 million is what I saw. It compensates leadership handsomely and possesses more than 30 million offshore accounts, likely in the Cayman Islands, its most recent IRS filings revealed. It's very odd and frankly raises suspicion that a nonprofit organization would have accounts in place like the Cayman Islands, or as they reported, 30 million in Central America. That's what Matt Staver, founder and chairman of the law firm Liberty Counsel, told the Daily Signal. Of course, Matt Staver is a regular guest here. $700 million. And yet, you know, you heard me lay out what they did to our conferences and how much it cost us. And yet we were told there really wasn't much you could do. Isn't it interesting? They could say all the things, encouraged what I think they encouraged, according to all the news reports and the screenshots of the social media that we all acquired and held on to give to our attorneys. And we weren't allowed to do diddly squat. But boy, howdy, don't you say hardly anything about the voting machine companies or you'll lose your fortune, i.e. Mike Lindell, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. See, the only thing that can touch someone like the SPLC is either the feds, you know, FBI, or a RICO lawsuit. Because what they're very careful about, they basically set people onto you. They encourage, they give information, but they try and keep their dirty little hands off it themselves. So RICO is really probably the best way to go after them. So I'm glad the FBI is doing it, because to take a private prosecution or sue them for defamation, you would struggle. And as you say, if they've got $730 million, you would have a heck of a battle on your hands. So they've been able to operate with impunity for many years, and thankfully now the feds are starting to take an interest.
Well, thank the Lord for the Trump administration. Again, we said we're going to praise the Trump administration when they do great work. We're going to question them and even criticize and disagree when they do things we don't agree with. And I'm going to call balls and strikes. And I say, God bless the Trump administration for taking on this group, the Southern Poverty Law Center. I mean, this is a really bad group. I mean, we've been warning about them. We've been on the receiving end of them for a very, very long time. Now, they're being accused of giving, what, $3 million? $3 million to white supremacy groups in order to act like, to fan the flames. Here's what the Yahoo News reports. A federal grand jury in Montgomery, Alabama, returned an 11-count indictment on April 21st, 2026, charging the Southern Poverty Law Center with 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of making false statements to a federally insured bank, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit concealment money laundering. The indictment alleges that between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly routed more than $3 million in donated funds to high-profile figures connected to some of the most notorious white supremacist and neo-Nazi groups across the country, including the KKK, United Klans of America, Unite the Right, National Alliance, National Socialist Movement, Aryan Nations affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, National Socialist Party of America, parentheses, American Nazi Party, American Front. Prosecutors claim these payments went to field offices, so-called, or informants embedded in or connected to the groups, while the SPLC publicly positioned itself as a catalyst for racial justice dedicated to dismantling white supremacy. Is this, I said to Logan earlier today, I said, Logan, you hear your dad talk about the Hegelian dialectic process all the time. Thesis and antithesis, idea, opposite idea, and they fight, and create the conflict. And as Saul Alinsky, the Marxist, said, the change comes through the conflict. And so they set up the conflict, manufactured chaos. Is this not a perfect example of that, Trevor?
Look, this is, and there's been a long history of communists backing these kind of groups, inventing them, encouraging them, Marxists infiltrating them, these Aryan nations type of groups and white supremacist groups. They are very often tied to the left in covert means. And very often both sides are linked to the Russians, Up until a few years ago, the anti-globalization movement of Russia was bringing American communists and American white supremacists together to the same conferences, And so this is an old pattern. There would, years ago in East Germany, there was a spate, in West Germany, there was a spate of swastikas being painted on Jewish graves. The communists did it. The Stasi, the East German police, the East German communist police did it. To just stir up trouble, make people think there are Nazis around, and then they say every conservative or every anti-communist is a Nazi or a fascist. So this is just a way of creating excuses to come after their enemies. The Unite the Right rally up in Charlottesville, which was a total disaster, which Trump and the Republicans got blamed for. That was the Southern Poverty Law Center had somebody in the organization of that. And that was organized basically by pro-Russian Nazis, and pro-Russian white supremacists like David Duke and Richard Spencer and people like this. And they were fighting on the streets against pro-Russian communists. You had pro-Russian leftists fighting pro-Russian rightists, and Trump gets the blame for it. This is the kind of thing they do.
Well, aren't they also now saying that the Southern Poverty Law Center was behind funding some of the groups that were getting the Charlottesville thing going, which
well, that's right. That's what I'm referring to. Yeah, they had people and at least one guy involved in the organization, involved with the organizers of it. So, that suits their purpose. They can create this big white supremacist, Christian nationalist, Nazi bogey, and then they link it to the Republican Party and Trump supporters, and then they get then they raise a whole lot of money off the back of it.
And they used that to go after President Trump because President Trump said there were some bad people there, but not everybody there was bad. There were some good people there. And then they used that to try to say that President Trump thought white supremacists were good people. That's not what he was saying. Yeah,
like he said, of some of the people coming across the border, there were rapists coming across the border. No, then they say, Trump said all Mexicans were rapists. This is the kind of lie they do, This is the kind of exaggeration, misrepresentation. It's all stunts. We operate on a certain ethical standard. Their ethical standard is winning. It's destroying us. That's all they care about. So that's why they do this kind of thing. The Southern Poverty Law Center was one of the worst examples of this in the country.
And the DOJ says that the Southern Poverty Law Center paid $270,000 to an informant who helped arrange logistics and transportation for that Charlottesville, Virginia event known as Unite the Right.
Well, that does not surprise me at all to know that, because, both sides were basically supporting the communists. The fascists, the white supremacists and the fascists are working with the Russians, and the leftists were working with the Russians and the Chinese. And so the Southern Poverty Law Center has always been affiliated with the communists. As I said, it had a very prominent pro-North Korean activist at the top of its chain at one point. Yeah, they're bad people, corrupt and communist and socialist, and deserve no respectability at all. And I just want to see this all come out in court. I want to see them stand up in court and justify what they did to the American people and people like you and people like many of our friends.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm reading that no individuals from the SPL leadership were named or indicted personally. So the indictment was against the SPLC itself on 11 counts. Why are they not indicting individuals? Why are they indicting the organization? I think they ought to be indicting individuals.
Well, maybe that will come later, but it's the organization that owns the money, not the individuals. So maybe they're going to take all their money off them.
Well, I hope
them a real
they would,
poverty organization.
Well, I hope they would go back through the records and look at what they did to groups like us and say, here's the $50,000-$60,000 you mentioned back in that 2018 article that this group helped to cost you with fanning the flames, as you and other people talked about. So here's $50,000-$60,000. We've seized their money, and here's $60,000 for you guys. I would love to see us get restitution.
Yeah, well, there's many people around who deserve it. I know many people who could make a claim on that. Actual operational costs, cancelled events, airline tickets, all of that. But then reputational damage would, if SPLC actually paid for what the damage has done, it would be in the billions of dollars.
Well, I would think ours could be in the millions. Personally, that's my opinion, because I can tell you that we went and tried to book some hotel venues after that, and they would send us contracts. Oh, sure. We've been booking hotel venues for years and years and years. We started Worldview Weekends in February of '93. And we would go and book a hotel venue after this, what they did to us back in April 2018. And the hotel would say, great, no problem. We'll send over a contract. They'd send over a contract. We negotiated the rate, the room rate, everything. They put it all in a contract. They send it over by email. I print it off, sign it, send it back, waiting on them to, sign it. And we have an enacted contract, and we would start promoting our next Worldview Weekend rally at that venue. Well, when we would send the contract back to them signed, usually within 24 hours, we would get an email saying our management says this is not going to work for us. Our management says we can't host your event. I guarantee you, they were going online, typing in Worldview Weekend, and up was popping this article about, here it is, Antifa and the SBCL successfully shut down 4 anti-Islam conference. They hear about hotel managers saying that, we got to cancel you. I'm sorry. We're getting threats against the venue, because we just showed you where manager said that, right? Threatening to protest. We have to ensure the safety of our guests first and foremost. And you should have heard what some of these people were reportedly calling in and saying to these hotels and venues. So they would research our name after agreeing that we could rent their ballroom, sending us a contract. We'd sign it and send it back before they would sign it and lock in, thus both sides, both parties having signed the contract. We would get an email back. Whoop, it turns out this is not a good fit for us. Our management says we can't rent to you. You know how many times that happened to us? That was reputational damage that we were receiving.
Yeah, and that's quantifiable. There is a quantifiable cost to you for that. And, that's, I look forward to a class action against the SPLC. That $750 million, that should go very nicely into, imagine if you got $1 million of that, Brandon.
Yeah,
or whatever.
absolutely. I won't hold my breath because as I already said, our court system's corrupt to the core. I think most of our judges are corrupt to the core. Most of our district attorneys, prosecutors, they're all corrupt to the core. There's a few good ones, but most of them are corrupt to the core. Even the ones that claim to be conservatives or Republicans, they're only interested in their career. They will send innocent people off to prison. They will withhold information because they want to advance their career. Most of these people don't give a spit about truth.
Well, there's a lot of cowards in the system. That's our problem, There's corrupt people. And I think cowards are even more common, They're not that they'll do something bad, but they won't do what's right.
Yeah,
they won't make a stand. And I think is our bigger problem.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. So some are corrupt, others are cowards. So if they stand up and do the right thing, they're afraid of being alienated, ostracized, whatever, right? I mean, and when you see how people who do stand up get treated, that's the whole purpose. That has a trickle-down effect, Trevor.
Yeah. Well, the whole reason they're coming after Trump is to make sure that nobody ever tries to do what he's done again, that nobody ever tries to finance him, fund him, support him, to basically turn any former, any supporter of Trump and to give him the same reputation that somebody that supported the Nazi Party would have. Mm-hmm. That's their goal, and the SPLC has played a major role in that kind of behavior. So look, let's just hope it really takes them out, and exposes, this could be our January the 6th. The left used the January the 6th to paint us as Nazis and fascists. Well, let's use this to paint the left for what they are, a bunch of lying, stealing, conniving communists.
Well, wouldn't it be interesting to see if some of these folks on the so-called right were being funded directly or indirectly with funds that came from the SPLC? You
mean more on the mainstream right?
Well, yeah. Obviously that. But what about these people on the so-called right? Are we going to find out some of these broadcasters that are pushing the whole, anti-Jewish, racist, anti-black thing are really being funded by money that came through the SPLC or came through and then was washed and then funneled around? I mean, I wonder if the DOJ is going to track that money.
Yeah, well, I think that could be right, but I think a lot of that is coming from the Russians, directly from the Russians. Mm. They are the main funders of that kind of thing. But I don't know where the limits of the SPLC go. I don't know what they're capable of. There's not much they wouldn't do if they could get away with it, I'm sure. So I can't prejudge them the way they prejudge everyone else. But I do know from my own experience with them what they have called me, what they've called my friends, the lies they have told, the people and their personnel, the Marxist character and Marxist personnel they have, and the lies they continually tell to the FBI about these so-called hate crime statistics. Yeah, I think the organization's got lots to answer for.
Isn't it interesting? You're telling me that the Southern Poverty Law Center was working directly with the FBI.
Absolutely.
And being used to investigate conservative and Christian groups, and yet we now find them being indicted by the DOJ. But again, where is the criminal charges against those inside the FBI that were working with a group like SPLC? Surely those guys had to know this was a dirty group, right?
Oh, look, absolutely. They knew that the statistics they were given and were using publicly and using in congressional hearings were completely bogus. They had to know that. There was, as I say, it was all, there was 6,000 hate crimes in Michigan this year. You investigate them. Well, somebody on a bus saw a sign, saw something printed on the back of a bus seat. Somebody was looked at strangely for being an Asian. Somebody heard a cuss word within their hearing and they thought it must have been racially motivated. That's the quality of their statistics.
Now, you mentioned, on top of Morris Dees, you mentioned another guy, Julian Bond.
Julian Bond, yeah.
Tell me about Julian Bond.
Well, Julian Bond was a leader of the civil rights movement in the 60s. Then he became a Georgia state senator for many years, a Democrat. But all that time, he was a member of Democratic Socialist America. He was a Marxist. And an open one, you know, you can look at it, Google his name with Democratic Socialists of America. And he was actively involved in several communist projects through his years, involved with DSA, involved with Communist Party figures, very much a man of the hard left. But he was a key part. He was a board member and a founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center for many years. But he's not the only one, but that's the most obvious one that springs to mind.
What's interesting is the 1960s progressed, Bond emerged as a rising star of the American left. He was endorsed by the Communist Party, participated in communist political forums, and campaigned for communist and left-wing politicians. In 1967, Bond served as co-chairman of the National Conference for New Politics, described by Senator James Eastland as a group working hand in glove with the Communist Party to foment revolution in the United States. Notably, NCNP's National Council included, listen now, folks, Marxist theoretician Herbert Marcuse and the notorious black racist Stokely Carmichael. Of course, Stokely Carmichael, I think, is the one behind Black Panthers. But Herbert Marcuse, he's the one I write about and talk about for a gazillion years in the Frankfurt School, who said the old way of revolution is old-fashioned, the new way is a diffused and dispersed disintegration of the system. That's Herbert Marcuse. He's the one that in 1965 wrote a paper called...
Is that it?
It was 1965, a paper called something tolerance.
The limits of tolerance or something like that.
Something
like that.
And his whole thing was, if you are against government welfare, if you're against redistribution of wealth, if you're against, getting rid of the Second Amendment, all these different things, then repressive tolerance, that was the name of it, repressive tolerance. Took the hard drive a minute, but it caught up. Repressive tolerance. And he said that we're going to deprive the right of the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. Okay?
Yeah.
It'll only go to the left. I mean, if anyone doubts what I'm telling you, I'm giving you the paraphrased quote, but I can give you the exact quote.
And that is exactly the role of the SPLC, to shut down our freedom of speech and only allow freedom of speech on the left.
Well, isn't that what they did to our conference?
Yes, of course. That's their goal. That's their raison d'etre. That is Marcuse right there. That's an interesting connection.
And I did not know that one of their guys was directly tied back to Herbert Marcuse. And yet he's the one that, again, talked about, I want to look up this direct quote by Herbert Marcuse, because you guys, I'm giving you the paraphrase. But what he did is so interesting, because what he was doing and calling for is exact. Here it is. This is in my book, Marxianity, for any of you that want to get the book. You don't need to buy it. You can get it. It's on page 12. Page 12 of my book, Marxianity. If you're in the Vault member at worldviewtube.com/vault, you automatically have access to all my books. On page 12 of Marxianity, in 1965, socialist Herbert Marcuse wrote a paper called Repressive Tolerance, in which he espoused a strategy for dealing with people who are Christians. They tend to be in the way because they believe in absolute truth, a worldview dismissed by social progressives as intolerant. I go on to quote him, and what he does is let me give you the quote. He says in his paper in 65, quote, liberating tolerance would mean intolerance against movements from the right and toleration of movements from the left. As to the scope of this tolerance and intolerance, it would extend to the stage of action as well as of discussion and propaganda of deed as well as of word, in quote. Now, that's very interesting, because until tonight, I did not realize that. I didn't realize one of the co-founders of the Southern Poverty Law Center, Julian Bond, was directly involved with Herbert Marcuse. He was, the National Council included Herbert Marcuse, that Bond was the co-chair of.
Yeah. Yeah, this shouldn't be surprising, should it? But it's an interesting connection. But look, I do have to get going. I'm sorry, Brandon.
No problem.
Yeah.
Have a
But
great
that's
weekend.
really very, very interesting.
Yep. Keep me posted. Trevor Loudon, his website, trevorloudon.com. trevorloudon.com. Again, trevorloudon.com. If you guys want to go to discoverthenetworks.org, you can just put in the name of all these different people. You'll find so much interesting stuff. And one of the co-founders of the Southern Poverty Law Center goes into all of his pro-communist connections. And we just found out about the Frankfurt School. I mean, look how long this is on Bond, the co-founder of Southern Poverty Law Center. It's such a lengthy, detailed report on him, and it's loaded with hyperlinks. You know, I study this stuff all the time, and I'm just constantly learning, like you just saw me do live here on the air. I had no idea Julian Bond, the co-founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center, had a direct connection to Herbert Marcuse, who of the Frankfurt School, who wrote the book Repressive Tolerance, and said, we're going to limit free speech and freedom of the right of assembly to the right. We'll let the left have it, but we won't let the right have it. And if you go into my book, it goes on to detail that. I don't know if I provided that more in the quote or not. Let's see. Let's see. Because he openly talks about depriving them of the right to free speech and the right to assembly. And yet that's exactly what they did to us. They shut our conferences down, stopping our free speech, stopping our right to assembly. And I had no idea that one of these groups, one of these guys who was connected to the Southern Poverty Law Center, was tied specifically to that. Wow. Let's see. Well, I don't guess I have the longer quote. I don't guess I have the longer quote in here in the book. You would think I would have had the longer version, but it's out there. It's in my stuff. I'm not going to give up on this, by the way. Right to assembly. Let me just check something else here, guys. Tell you what, let's do this. Let's go to a commercial break. I'm going to come right back during the break. I'm going to find this quote because I want to give you the full quote. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
All right, we're back, and I found it. Here is the full quote. Herbert Marcuse, Repressive Tolerance, 1965. They would include the withdrawal of toleration of speech and assembly from groups and movements which promote aggressive policy, armament, chauvinism, discrimination on the grounds of race and religion, or which oppose the extension of public services, Social Security, medical care, etc. So in other words, if you're for armament, a strong military, Second Amendment, chauvinism, how do you define that? What? Well, remember, the whole idea of the Frankfurt School was they were going to go after the masculine male, the patriotic masculine male. So their idea of chauvinism was anyone that was a patriotic, strong American male that believed in traditional sex roles, right? God-ordained marriage, God-ordained sexuality, the biblical roles of men and women, complementarianism. You know, how a wife and a husband, their various giftings complement each other. But men and women are not the same, but they complement each other. And if you believe in that, you're a chauvinist. Toxic masculinity is another way you would say it today. So isn't this interesting? If you're not for socialism, redistribution of wealth, public services, extension of the welfare services, then we're going to deprive you, what'd they say? Withdrawal, toleration of speech, and assembly. Isn't that what happened to us when they got all these groups to come and call and make threats as it happened? Because that's what they did, they made threats. You heard the hotel, we're concerned about the safety of our people. So they took away our right to free speech, our right to freedom of religion, our right to peaceful assembly by putting these groups against us, as documented, again, in this article, even by the Daily Caller. And there are many other groups that reported on this. Yep, here it is. Also, they could not afford to provide more security than those already hired and canceled the last event out of safety. I want to look every time the word safety with you. We need to ensure the safety of our guests. So we were told by hotel managers, people were calling into that hotel and they were making threats that caused them to say it's not safe for us to host this event, and even put it in writing. They're concerned about the safety of our guests. And thus we had, because of what I believe basically were threats against the hotels or against our conferences at those facilities, we were told that's why we were canceled. And we didn't have the right to assemble together. Well, tonight I just learned, I had no idea after all these years, that the co-founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center was directly tied to Herbert Marcuse, who in 1965, in his own paper, Repressive Tolerance, said he'd do that. They would deprive groups like me, you, Christian groups, conservative groups, of the right of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. I did not know Herbert Marcuse was tied to the co-founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center till tonight. I've been giving this quote by Herbert Marcuse with the Frankfurt School for years and years and years. But I can only research so much. You know, that's why, again, I say, folks, take note. Even the host is always learning new information. Wow, that is absolutely fascinating. And to think these groups are so well organized and coordinated. All right. I did an interview earlier today with my friend Bob Cornuk. I called him up. His schedule was crazy. He's actually at an event in Dallas, Texas. So I said, hey, I want to have you on the show tonight, but we had to pre-record it. So this afternoon, I pre-recorded an interview with Bob Cornuk related to all the stories out about the Ark of the Covenant and Noah's Ark. And we get into some other things as well. So I want to bring that to you now. An interview I did today with Bob Cornuk. Watch this. Join me now is Bob Cornuk. He's been with us many times. Bob and I have been working together now almost 30 years. Can you believe it? It's probably more than 30 years, to be honest with you. Noah's Ark mystery deepens as underground tunnels found in Turkey Mountain, in the Turkey Mountain, match biblical blueprint or Bible blueprint. I don't know about that, folks. What are they talking about? This is a site known as the Derpinair site. Wikipedia, not that that's the most trusted source in the world, but you could go there for a quick little reference and lots of pictures. This, whatever it is, structure in the soil, in the land, I think it was originally found, if I remember correctly from my reading, in like 1959. What does this say? According to local reports, heavy rains combined with 3 earthquakes exposed the formation from the surrounding mud on May 19th, 1948. Yeah, here we go. It was subsequently identified by Turkish Army Captain Ilhan Derpinmeyer, from whom it was subsequently named in a Turkish Air Force aerial photo while on a mapping mission for NATO in October of 59. Well, there's a lot of talk on this. I think even Fox News has done a thing on this. When I keep seeing this, I'm like, wait a minute. We've been there, done that. We have covered this topic several times, and we know people that have been there, including Bob Cornuk, who's going to join us right now. And apparently they are pretty convinced this is not Noah's Ark. Let's do an update since it's all in the news. Bob, welcome back. Thanks for being with us. And then we're going to get, by the way, to the New York Post has a new article out today, yesterday, actually, April 21st, on archaeologist thinks new tech could reveal where the lost Ark of the Covenant is. Bob has spent probably more time looking for Noah's Ark and the Ark of the Covenant than any man alive right now. He joins us from the Dallas, Texas area. Bob, thanks for being with us tonight.
Great. I'm at the Turning Point Pastor Summit
All right.
So I'm out here. Sorry for the noise in the background, but it's the best I can do.
No, we appreciate you joining us on such short notice. Let's go to the Noah's Ark mystery, the site, the Derpenier site. Tell me about all this. What do you make of this making the rounds again on the news?
Well, they just keep putting the sausage through the grinder on this one. It's the same story there, but they put a different sauce in it each time. It's the same story. It's all fake news. I've been over there with some of the top geologists in the world, John Morris, John Baumgartner from Los Alamos, even the guy that walked on the moon, Jim Irwin, who's a geologist, astronaut, found the Genesis stone on the moon. This is an earthen object. There's about 400 of them on the mountain that we're talking about over on the Drupal site, which is in the lower flanks of Mount Ararat. It's just a natural mud flow. It just happens to be the biggest one. So they've latched onto it and said it's Noah's Ark. But the word ark in Scripture is box, a rectangular shape or a box shape, like a coffin shape. And this has a pointed bow and a pointed stern, if we're going to give boat vernacular on this thing. But it's just ridiculous because the Ark didn't need to have hydraulic efficiency going through the water, gaining speed with a pointed prow. It was just a floating zoo, a box shape, the Bible says. So it doesn't even fit with what the Bible says. And the Bible says the Ark landed on the 17th day of the 7th month on the mountains of Ararat, the highest mountain, and then the other mountain peaks began to appear. So this is on the lowest mountain. So it just is completely antithetical to what the Bible is teaching. The reason it's so interesting is it's an object and it's big and it looks like a boat. And so voila, it's in the area of Mount Ararat, so they call it Noah's Ark. And people keep saying that they found chambers and this and that. I've been all over that object. I've been there with the top geologist. It's an earthen object. It doesn't have chambers, doesn't have tunnels, doesn't have ribs in it, metal ribs, nothing like that. So it's fake news. Kind of frustrating for me that's trying to be intellectually honest, but people want the sensational notoriety of this, or believing that whatever they say will bring people to God because they found the Ark, and so they're thinking they're doing a good thing, but they're actually doing the wrong thing.
Wikipedia says the site was then ignored until 1977 when it was rediscovered and promoted by pseudo-archaeologist and amateur explorer Ron Wyatt. Throughout the 1980s, Wyatt repeatedly tried to interest other people in the site, including Ark hunter and former astronaut James Irwin and creationist John D. Morris, neither of whom was convinced the formation was the Ark. In 1985, Wyatt was joined by David Fossold and geologist John Baumgartner, where the expedition recounted in Fossold's The Ark of Noah. As soon as Fossold saw the site, he explained that it was a shipwreck. Fossold brought along ground-penetrating radar equipment and a, quote, frequency generator, end quote, set it on the wavelength for iron and searched the formation for internal iron. The later technique was later compared to dowsing by the site's detractors. Dowsing. Fossold and the team states that the ground penetration radar revealed a regular internal formation and measured the length of the formation as 538 feet, close to the 300 cubits, 550 of Noah's Ark in the Bible. If the Royal Ancient Egyptian cubit is used, Fossold believed the team found the fossilized remains of the upper deck and that the original reed structure has disappeared in the nearby village formerly Arzap. They examined so-called anchor stones they believe were once attached to the Ark. Then it goes on from there. Other folks are saying no. In a 1997 in sworn testimony at Australian court, Fossold repeated his doubts and noted he regretted the claim that Noah's Ark had been found as absolute BS, is what he says. Okay. So
I talked to John. I talked to Fossold about this. He denies it at the end of his life. He talked to me about it. Said no, it's fake news. John Baumgartner certainly didn't say it was it. I don't know why they even put his name attached to it. I guess it's easy to do, just to make a claim. You put these names to it, and then who's going to check it out? Baumgartner said it's no good. Jim Irwin said it's no good. John Morris says it's no good. And here's the interesting thing about this object is that it's just an earthen object, but there's many more around it. But the thing about the anchor stones, those anchor stones, Jim Irwin and I went early in the morning one day. We left the hotel so no news would see us or anybody else. We went out to where those anchors were. They are stones that were headstones for a Crusader graves. We found the skeletons underneath. They were hacked up. I have pictures of them if you care to see them. Brent, I can show you the skeletons that have hack marks in them from the forearms and the skulls and stuff. It is a headstone. Has a big hole at the top of it. So they say, oh, there's anchor stones. Well, the ark didn't need to have anchors on it. It's not going to moor any place. They were headstones. They have Crusader crosses on them. There's 8 crosses. So they say, oh, there's 8 people on the ark. So that's where they have 8 crosses. These people can make something out of nothing. This is all mirrors.
Let me interrupt you right there. 8 crosses. Why on earth would you have 8 crosses for people in Genesis when the crucifixion isn't until the New Testament? Why would they have any affinity to have 8 crosses?
That's until Constantine we started the cross. It's all fake news. And here's the problem is we don't even, these people probably have well-intended things that they want to help, bring people to God. They probably want a lot of notoriety on top of it. But look at the ark. The ark, I was interviewed by CNN. And they said, oh, wouldn't it be worth a lot of money? And I told the CNN, I said, look, it's just old wood. It's an old corpse. It's a rotting remains of a boat. It doesn't mean anything. So what should we do with the ark if we found it? We should probably burn it. And if we ever find it, because people will make it into an idol. They'll start worshiping the wood and not the symbolism of what the ark is. The ark is a symbol of Christ. If you're on that ark, you survive. If you're off that ark, you perish. So what I'm saying is that it's a symbol. It's an early symbol, a forerunner of Christ, of salvation. We should look at that and not this ridiculous notion that it's a boat when it's not a boat.
What do you make of these scans they're doing? I think we just saw some look like scanning they were doing with the imagery.
Yeah, I can scan where I'm standing right now and say I found stuff underneath me, chambers underneath me. But it's all pixels, different colors. And the gullible consuming audience will believe it because people say, oh, it's chambers. You look at pixels and you say it's chambers. I started off being the really wanting to find Noah's Ark gun ho. Now I'm trying to be the guy that shows all these people are really hurting the word of God, hurting God's purpose by making these grandiose claims and then getting themselves on Fox News and things like that. It's just tragic. Those anchors. I tell you what. I'll tell you about one of the finders. Okay, I'm going to get sued on this one, but
no, don't do that. I've been on that road too many times.
Ron, because I'm going to tell you
with Mike Lindell.
Occurred a little boy over there. I worked for Ron Wyatt, and he went over there with an auger. He told me this is what he said. I can't verify whether he did or didn't, but he said this. About a 14-year-old kid. He said that Ron paid him to go over there. They took an auger bit. They put it in that object. They went down about 10 feet. They put up a lot of earth that came out of it. And then he said Ron dipped some wood into tar, dropped it in there, covered it up with dirt, came back a year later when the grass had grown over it and re-drilled it. And the wood chips came up with tar. And all those with him, supposedly some doctors, I think, wrote some big checks for it. This is stuff that just gets my goat. My background is I'm a former FBI trained homicide investigator. I need to have real evidence that can be looked at. It can be scrutinized by a lot of different experts, and this is not. By the way, what they found over there when they say they did this ground penetrating radar, it was a divination rod that made out of metal, and so when these two little rods cross. They said, okay, this is where a rivet is. And so they put a ribbon in the ground and took pictures of it. And it's just from a divining rod. It's not from anything that's a notable finder of metal machinery. So here's what you got the problem with. You're using a divination device, which is forbidden in Scripture. It's witchcraft. It's divination. It's cult. And it's wrong to do.
Ron Wyatt's dead now, right?
He's passed away, so it's not good to talk about someone when they've died. But I've got to be honest to your audience and say, look, we don't need to find Noah's Ark to know that Christ is real. There's so much evidence And we need to not find the wood of the cross, the wood of the ark. We need to recognize what it represented. The cross represented what happened on the cross, the atoning blood of Christ, what we look at, the salvation mechanism of the ark. It doesn't matter if we find the wood. It'll just become a cult object anyway if people find it.
Tell me, where do you, if they were to find any remains of Noah's Ark, first of all, do you think there are any remains, number one? Number two, if they were to find it, and you've been looking forever, do you think they would find it in Turkey, or do you believe it's actually in Iran?
I believe it could be in Iran because Genesis 11:2, it says that the descendants of Noah, when they migrated to Shinar, which is Baghdad, in between the Tigris and Euphrates, they came from the east, scripture says they came from the east, and they settled in Shinar. Well, Turkey is northwest of there. When I spent 5 trips to Iran, about 6 months of my life over there, going through all the museums, libraries, universities, and there are 10 times more belief that it landed in the mountains of Iran, the Zagros or the Elburz Mountains in Iran. The reason we start looking in Turkey around Mount Ararat for the Ark is because Marco Polo went through there in the 13th century, and he wrote about, he met some local Armenians. They said, oh, the Ark is up on the mountain behind us, the big mountain. They just had their Bibles translated. So the Armenians told him that. He never saw it. It's just hearsay. Well, his writings became viral. We still look at his writings, Marco Polo, and that kind of made it go viral in Europe, spread to the West. And now we just say, well, the Ark came to rest on Mount Ararat. The Bible doesn't say Mount Ararat anywhere. It says mountains of Ararat. You go to Turkey today, it's one cone mountain coming out of the Anatolian plain. You need to have a mountains, plural, of Ararat. And that Flavius Josephus, Demetrius, Philo, Julius Africanus all allude to it being in the area of the Minyans or the Adiabene, and that's in Iran around the the Minyan Lakes over, or the I forget the name of it, Myrni Lakes or something like that. But that's what they were talking about.
Wasn't there some guy that, I don't know if he was an American guy or somebody was over there, did something, someone appreciated what he did, and they took him up into the mountains and showed him this boat, this structure, and then later someone showed him a picture of a mountain, said, is this where you were? And they showed him a picture of Mount Ararat in Turkey. And he's like, yeah, that looks like where I was. And then that also became a dominant thing, but he didn't know where he was at. Who was that? I remember you and I talking about that story.
Yeah, I forget his name. I'll pull it up after we get off, I'm sure, and I'll kick myself for not knowing it. But this guy said he went over and he was shown the thing, but he believes that he's from Iran. Ed Davis, who was the guy in World War II, said he saw it. He said he saw it in Iran. All these people said they saw it in the Iranian mountains. Now, one of the things, and I can send you this letter. I just got it in my file, Brandon. I have the most prominent guy that said he saw the Ark was a pilot named Ruskavitsky in the First World War. Mm-hmm. And the story is that he took those photos and he took it to the Tsar, and it's now hidden in the Kremlin. Great story. The guy that wrote that story in Stars and Stripes magazine, a guy named Lloyd, a pastor, I have his letter of confession that Jim Irwin's wife just gave to me. And I have it, and he signed it, and it's a letter of confession that he made the whole story up. So that whole grandiose story about World War I pilot going around and seeing it, that's very popular, everybody passes it around, is all bogus. The guy confessed. I have the letter. I'll send it to you if you want to see it.
So it wasn't even, so that whole story was made up.
It was made up, but I can show you. I've got it. Mary Irwin, she's now a little bit, she's a little bit aged, but she's still sharp as a tack, and she's a wonderful person. She said, Bob, look what I just find in the file that Jim had, and I got it, and I went, oh, you got to be kidding. This guy confessed to the whole thing. He made the whole thing up, and I have the letter to show you.
Oh, wow. Because I just looked it up online. He had drawings and sketches and everything that he had made.
Yeah, all these guys. See, I did a show with ABC News, and they said the 3 most interesting things in the world are Noah's Ark, Noah's Ark, ghosts, and UFOs. So anytime you see somebody does a show on UFOs, ghosts, or Noah's Ark, it gets huge ratings. So people want to gin this up, and they want to poke the bear, and they want to get ratings. So they always go back to this every 6 or 7 months. It's the Noah's Ark thing. They don't come to me because I'm the one that doubts all this stuff.
Yeah. Of course, his website is baseinstitute.org, right, Bob?
Yes, thank you for saying that.
Base, B-A-S-E, Logan. Baseinstitute.org. All right, let's go to another story. Now we have Noah's Ark in the news, and we have the Ark of the Covenant in the news again. This one dated yesterday by the New York Post. Archaeologists think new tech could reveal where the lost Ark is hidden at last. This is talking about the Ark of the Covenant. All right, pick up on that one, Bob, because you also were searching for the Ark of the Covenant for a gazillion years as well.
I've been 22 trips to Ethiopia, about 10 trips to Israel on the Ark of the Covenant. So here's the deal on the Ark. These guys that are saying it's underneath the temple are wrong. Because if you look in, let's see, 2 Chronicles 35:3, 2 Chronicles 35:3, it says, King Josiah commanded the Levites to the place of the Holy Ark in the temple built by Solomon, explicitly stating it should not longer be a burden on their shoulders anymore. So the Ark is being carried on the shoulders of Levites outside of Jerusalem. The verb put means it's not in there, and it's outside of Jerusalem because Scripture says in 2 Chronicles 35:3 that it's being carried far away on the shoulders of Levites, who are the caretakers of the Ark.
So where do you think it is?
I think the most promising lead that I have is I've been over to Ethiopia, and after being over there, I've gotten to meet the Narud. I met with the president of Ethiopia. I met with all the priests. I'm the only Westerner on the committee on what to do. I can't tell you what the inside of the building looks like. I know they vowed me to secrecy, and I'll honor that. I am the guy that they've allowed more information on the Ark of the Covenant over in Ethiopia. Now, they either have the Ark or they have a copy that they believe the Ark to be the Ark for 2,000 years. But I think I can make a pretty strong case that the Ark left during Manasseh. It was last mentioned about in Hezekiah prayed before the Ark in 701 BC. And then it's missing, and then Josiah is trying to get it back in. That's where the 2 Chronicles 35 thing. So it probably went to Egypt, and then went to Ethiopia. And I can make a breadcrumb trail, but I can't prove it. But it's a stronger case than anybody else has, I think.
Do you think it'll ever be revealed?
No. Well, they say they never will reveal it. The secret, but they've allowed me to. I'm the only Westerner on the committee. I know what it looks like. I know they've given me drawings. In fact, I helped them with the new building project over there. I've seen the plans of it, and I am the one that they've let me in the inner circle, and I'll not betray that trust. They're very loyal to me, and I'm loyal to them. But let me tell you, what they tell me is pretty convincing.
Interesting. Do any of them have any interest in getting it back to Jerusalem at any point?
Well, we read that, the Ethiopian eunuch, we read in Acts 8, I think it is. He was down there. He was in charge of the temple treasury of Candace, the queen of Ethiopia. And so what was he doing down in Jerusalem? And he's reading from Isaiah, which on Isaiah 18 talks about a great gift coming to Christ when he returns to rule in the Messianic reign in Jerusalem from Ethiopia. So read Zephaniah 3:10 says, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, the daughters of my dispersed shall bring my offering. My offering in the singular is always the ark or the tabernacle. So it's very interesting. They're very interesting connectors in Scripture. Well, we won't know until Christ returns what that's going to be. But a lot of people feel that the top portion of the ark will be the throne of Christ. That was a theory brought forth by Ken Durham at Colorado Christian University. Great theory. But he believes, because that's where the blood of propitiation was placed, that's the great gift coming from Ethiopia. Isaiah 18 talks about a great gift coming to Christ, being returned to Christ. So you can all reread those verses. Pretty interesting, but we can't prove it, but it's very provocative to conject.
Oh, interesting. All right, let's go to your website, baseinstitute.org, baseinstitute.org. Lots of information there. You can book him to speak, find all kinds of stuff. What's the latest thing that you're working on right now, Bob?
Well, actually, I'm doing. Okay, this is kind of. I shouldn't be. My board is going to kill me on this one. We think we found the first church, the mother church that Eusebius talks about in 303, And we dug over there and we found a baptismal bowl in this huge cave east of the city of David, because Eusebius says east of the city of David, east of the city on the Mount of Olives is a huge cave where everybody worshiped. Well, we found this cave over there. We discovered it. No one else has seen it. I photographed it. I videotaped it. Go online. You can see Amazing New Discoveries by Bob Cornuk in Jerusalem. I hate that title, but that's what they put on, Amazing New Discoveries. But we just have a bowl. And when we get off air, I'll send a picture of it. Random. We just had this bowl brought over to the United States, and it was dug up there, and we had it translated as inscription, and it says 3 times with the holy water. So this could be the actual first baptismal bowl ever used, and it's from the mother church that Eusebius talks about in his writings from 303. So I've got the photos, I've got the letters of certification from the Hebrew University on this. That's a pretty strong one. So we're doing a documentary on it right now.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, we think we found John Hyrcanus's tomb. We've had the inscriptions on that. That's a peer-reviewed paper just done by Hebrew University in Georgetown. See, what I'm doing is I'm finding this stuff. I used to try to write the papers myself, but I'm an airhead. I'm nobody. I'm just a dumb ex-cop. So I get these guys that are really pedigreed. They have a lot of brains, and I'm having them write the papers now. So they're getting the credit on the papers, but they credit me as the discoverer. So that's kind of fun. But,
and what is it you think you've just found?
We found John Hyrcanus's tomb. He was killed by Herod the Great. He's the last of the Hasmonean leaders. He's one of the top, in Hebrew University, he said it's one of the top 5 discoveries ever in Jerusalem. It's like finding George Washington's tomb. He's the last of the Hasmonean leaders, and we have his inscription. And the Palestinians say he wasn't a character. So the name Palestine, the guy that, John Hyrcanus the first that defined the borders of Israel, was way before Palestine was even mentioned by the Romans. So, but they say, well, there's no record of John Hyrcanus or John Hyrcanus II. Well, I just found an inscription of him causing a big stir over in Israel. And that's where we have the IAA involved in it. And the Israel Archaeological Authority did a paper on it. And they're the one that translated the inscription to be John Hyrcanus. It might not mean much to Americans, but boy, over there in Israel, it's a big deal.
Let me ask you about a piece that was in Israel 365 News last October 2025. The headline was New archaeological evidence points to Sodom and Gomorrah's location near the Dead Sea. Weren't you also doing some work on that topic?
Oh, I'm interested in it, and I've been wanting to get a hold of that guy to find out what the deal is. But no, I haven't done that. I'm not involved with Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay. Anything else you're involved in that you haven't told me about or you want to update us on before we let you go?
Well, we're working on the temple being in the city of David.
Right.
We found some pretty interesting new stuff there. You go east of there and you find the split open tombs. So we're working on the split open tombs. I'm going over to Israel in October, and we're going to be doing more research within that area where we think the mother church is, the Eusebius. That's over the split open tombs, and where Hyrcanus's tomb was found. And it's a 1st century tomb, so it could be where Christ was buried. We found 4 plugged tombs over there, huge, and we think one of them could be Christ. It could be, in theory, could be Christ, because it's the only 1st century tomb found in the area east of the city of David. And Christ would have been crucified east of the temple, which is the Silwan village east of the temple, and the garden tomb would be very close to there. And we found a tomb on the top of the hill where the trees grow and the garden is, and that's where we think Christ might have been buried there. But that's an 80-yard field goal for us right now, and we don't think we can make it. We got to do a lot more research before we make any proclamation. So I'm just saying it's fascinating, it's interesting, and we've got a lot of work to do.
Do you have any take on the rebuilding of the 3rd temple? And
yes,
do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Christ cannot return until the temple's rebuilt. So now the authorities over there that are in the know, the head guys, and we're talking about the Hebrew University stuff, they're saying, Bob, based on your book about the temple being in the city of David, you brought up the point that Solomon was taken down by King David's mule to the Gihon Springs and anointed king. They took the horn of oil from the tabernacle, which means that the tabernacle was there and that the ark was there because they took a horn of oil from the tabernacle. So they're saying, well, if the tabernacle was there before, it's good enough for us now. So I'll make on. You can play this tape in 2 years. I believe they're gonna erect the tent, the tabernacle, not brick and mortar, big temple, they're going to put brick and mortar. They're going to put a tent over there, and they're going to start doing their sacrifices within the city of David. And Christ cannot return until the Antichrist goes and declares himself God, stops temple worshiping, and they've got to rebuild the temple. And I think they're going to do it in the city of David.
And of course, he's got a whole thing on his website, guys, about you go to his main website, which I'll do again. There you go. Main website, go to investigations, then temple, and you can read. Now, folks, people will go after him and criticize him, but he's making his case. Good people can argue about this, but you ought to read, look how lengthy his article is. You ought to read his position. And because when you're talking about the temple, how many yards down the hill are we talking from what we know as called the traditional temple site now? How many yards down the hill are we talking where you're saying
600 feet. We just found, I'm working with Eli Shukran, the director of archaeology in the city of David, and we're going to the ancient walls and we're doing the measurements. And you're not going to believe how it all just fits like a glove over there.
So you're talking 600 feet. Okay. So
yeah. Okay. Well, here. Okay. Josephus said, if you take the ancient walls, which we think are Nehemiah's walls around the city of David, that's probably the same walls. He said, you go around by the western side, which is the Tarophian Valley, go to the Pool of Siloam. We know where that is. Josephus, read Josephus. It says you go around the Pool of Siloam, going to the east. Right in Josephus' writing, he said, you go up to the Ophel, which we know where that is. That's 600 feet down from the traditional Temple Mount. He said, that's where the temple is. Well, you know what that is? Exactly where the Gihon Springs is. The Gihon Springs is the only running water in Jerusalem. You need to have running water to wash the priests for they're doing their priestly duties. Josephus tells us exactly where it is, and he was an eyewitness. And he says it's in the city of David, right over the Gihon Springs. Read Josephus. He says it as plain as day. That's where it should be. Okay.
What do you think? We had Byron Stinson at our conference last fall, who is from Texas and took the 5 red heifers over. And then they, in fact, actually in this pocket, I have some of the ashes because they burned one of, I just happened to have it in this suit coat because he gave it to me that day and I've kept it in this suit coat since last October. But they burned one of the heifers the summer before, and said that, it didn't meet the deal. So they burned it. Turned out they were, I guess, asked by the government to be careful because Hamas had wanted to get in there and take those things out. They were even talking about that before October 7th. So now they're saying, no, it wasn't burning what we thought was a defective heifer. We think it was good. And we have 10 gallons of ashes. And of course, he brought me some. He spoke on it.
I don't know about that, but I do know that if they have a red heifer, I understand that they're getting too old. They're getting to the place where the expiration date is going to be up on them. And so they're kind of pushed against the wall here to get that. But I don't know about the burning of the ashes of the red heifer, but they're claiming they have them. Mm-hmm. They have all the implements, but I'll tell you what, play this tape. Within 2 years, you're going to hear people talking about building the tabernacle, the tent in the city of David.
Well, if they have the ashes already, then they're, and there's, like he says in his presentation, some of the rabbis say we're good. Some of the rabbis say, no, we're not. So, they're fighting among themselves. Some of them is, but if they are considered legit, then they have ashes. He has 10 gallons.
You can burn a cow and say you've got ashes, but it has to be done in a prescribed way. So
that's
many
right.
feet east, it's got to be done. The head has to be facing the temple. It has to be mixed with water from the Gihon. All these requirements are there. Just having ashes, like saying, it just doesn't convince me.
Do you know if they did that? Do you know if they followed those procedures?
No, I've not heard that. You're the first one to let me know.
Oh, wow. We even have pictures. Logan, if we bring up the pictures of them burning that heifer, they got to follow procedures, I think, of what is it, Numbers chapter 19?
Yeah, there's certain prescribed distance east of, has to be in view of the temple itself, which makes sense if the temple is in the city of David and not on the Mount of, and not where the traditional Temple Mount is. The city of David fits everything. But the interesting thing about east of there they are. I think they're from. I saw those in Shiloh. They had them displayed in Shiloh.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think we have video footage, Logan, of them actually burning that one. He's trying to find it. But yeah, you there's Byron. You should. I can text you his phone number.
Sure, I'd love to talk.
If you're interested, because I would love for you two to talk. If for no other reason, just so you can say, yeah, I think they're onto something, or you could tell me, no, I don't think they're onto something. I'd just be curious, because as always, I'm open to hearing from everybody and then weighing what everyone's saying, right?
Well, what I say is, hey, don't trust me or Byron. Billy Graham, Brandon House, the Pope. Trust what Scripture says. If what I say matches with Scripture, listen to me. If I don't say what Scripture says, don't listen to me.
Absolutely.
Okay? Everything I say, I like Paul. The Bereans were noble, and that's the problem with America today. Is they latch onto the first sensational thing, the guy that puts the graphics, the pixels, the underground stuff, and they start believing that. No, if you match up what Scripture says, and if I say, that's why everything I do, I put Scripture behind it. Everything.
Well, that's why we like having you on, Bob. It shouldn't be that hard to find that footage of the burning red heifer that we had and show. He's looking, I'm looking. I don't know. Why did it get scrubbed? Because it's in our archive though, but we won't take the time to go through it. But that's interesting that what we could find once so very easily is now not as easily found. That's very interesting. But like I said, we do have it instead of one of our past programs in archive. All right. Fascinating.
Hey, Brandon,
yeah.
Brandon, I think if you do a show, let the people know, I've not shown the bowl with the inscription, the first baptismal bowl. I got a whole story on it. If you want to do a story on it, I'll go to my studio and I'll let you, because I just love you, man. You're a dear friend. I see my phone's going crazy. Sorry about that. That's
all right. Well, thank you, Bob. We always love working with you. We've been working together for 30 years. What year was it we were working at the same think tank for a while in D.C.? What year was that?
Man, about 32 years ago.
Isn't that great? Yeah. We've been working together for 32 years. I met you in downtown DC. We were working at the same think tank for a while. And this guy and I are being trained in the same time. He's telling me, well, all he was doing. And I'm like, this guy's fascinating. And then within a few years, I start Worldview Weekends. I get connected with him because he all of a sudden is blowing up on CBN and other sites where he's giving interviews about Mount Sinai. And I'm watching CBN News one night, and I said to my wife, I know that guy. He and I worked at that state, and I named the organization. We worked together there for a few months. And I dug up your phone number and called you, and we, of course, started booking you, and you spoke all over the country with us. And
Brandon, I have to thank you publicly. And for those that don't know Brandon, he's the real deal. I love you, but you're very thorough. You're just one of those dear friends that I cherish, and my ministry has been advanced because of Brandon House.
Well, you're very kind. It's a two-way street, my friend. We've had a lot of fun, and Bob and I used to swap war stories and he would have us rolling in the floor, literally, at some of our conferences in the back room or at the hotel. We would be laughing so hard at some of his stories. We won't get into it now, but the lady that had the string on her leg, and they would tug on it to tell her when TV breaks were coming up.
That goes way back.
That goes way back. He would tell us the story, and he would animate these. Or when he was like a chip, California Highway Patrol. And
I was a motorcycle cop in California.
Yep, and you can see pictures of him, and he's riding alongside of plate glass windows, and he's looking at himself in the plate glass windows, thinking he is the man. And I think he about rear-ended a Volkswagen Bug.
No, it was the first day. I said I wanted to see what I looked like in my uniform, as all guys would do. And I'm looking over myself, and this lady backs up in a yellow Volkswagen, and I was looking at myself, and I hit her fender. So that's a little embarrassing. Doesn't the Bible say pride goes before destruction? Yeah, there you go.
We used to laugh so much. And my kids, Logan wasn't even born yet, obviously. None of my kids were born. None of my kids. I got pictures, and I actually saw some the other day. I got pictures of Logan sitting in your lap. Logan can't be more than 5 years old sitting in Bob's lap.
I remember that.
Do you know I have some of those, Logan? You don't. Do you remember sitting in Bob's lap? Oh, I'll bring them up. I have a picture of you sitting in Bob's lap. You had to be here in Tennessee. And you had to be no more than 5 years old. Now he's 23 years old, our VP of operations. And your kids are all grown up and doing well. One of your sons working at TP USA. It's amazing. We've come a long way. Now, I'm a grandfather. My granddaughter got here last night. Are you a grandfather yet?
Yeah.
How many you got?
5.
5? Mm-hmm. Oh, Bob, my kids need to get busy. All right. Well, there you go. Bob and I have been friends a long time. Bob, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us and talk about these things. Let me promote your website again. There it is, folks. baseinstitute.org, B-A-S-E institute.org. His documentaries and stuff on the Ark of the Covenant, Noah's Ark, Paul's shipwreck, the anchors of Paul, they're all there. The temple, fascinating things. The thing I love about Bob is he throws it out there. He's not dogmatic. He's like, look, these are interesting things. We can talk about them. You can agree, you can disagree. But ultimately, he points you back to the gospel. And Bob uses his archaeological information. And by the way, out of all the archaeological evidence or archaeological discoveries tied to the New Testament, over 25,000 of them, not one has disproven the Bible. And I think Bob likes to say, archaeologists used to dig to disprove the Bible. Now they read the Bible to find out where to dig. Fascinating.
Amen.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, see ya, Brandon. Thanks again.
Bob Cornuk checking in tonight. Check out his site, baseinstitute.org. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. As always, thank you for supporting us. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. WorldviewFoundation.com. Somebody has been following Cayman around all day, and that would be Dolly. Right, Dolly? Dolly loves Cayman. She's been following her around all day long, making sure that she's safe. And you've been a good mother, Dolly. You like mothering her, don't you? Yeah. She talks about Dolly, we're told, all the time. All right, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. As always, thank you for your support. Hey, I'm off the next 2 days, Thursday and Friday, celebrating my 57th birthday. I'm going to spend some time with my kids, my granddaughter, my wife, not necessarily in that order, but with all of them. And also going to be spending a lot of time reading my brand new commentary on the book of Revelation. 1,700 pages is about. I got to read it, get it finished up as far as editing so we can get it to the layout and go to print and have it for the fall conferences. So I'll be off Thursday and Friday. Unless there's major breaking news, then I'll come back. Other than that, I'm going to spend some time with family and spend a lot of time reading to get that commentary edited and finished. All right? Till next time, I'm Brandon House. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
Welcome. Glad you are with us again today. I want to talk to you about, and by the way, let me just simply say, well, let me tell you what I'm going to talk to you about. That's one of the rules in radio. You got to do a hook. I'm going to talk to you about why Jesus did not go to hell to suffer for our sins. Did Jesus go to Hades? What do you think, folks? Yes or no? Did Jesus go to Hades? It's almost a trick question because you might be shocked at the answer. Because the answer is yes, he went to Hades, also known as Sheol. There are two sides. There's the judgment side and the paradise side. Did Jesus go to hell to suffer for our sins? No. Why is this taught? I can tell you today my belief as to why people teach it. Some people teach it because that's what they've been taught and they've never gone to the Bible. But why do prominent false teachers teach this? I'll tell you why I believe they do. And when you line up false teachers with who it is they're energized by, and the epistles are very clear that false teachers are energized by Satan. What is it that Satan tries to do? Take away God's what? Glory, right? He wants to be like God. He wants to take God's glory. He said in Isaiah 5 times, I will be like God. I will ascend to the heavens. He wants people to worship him. He wants to steal God's glory. Isn't this in part why he was kicked out of heaven? Because he wanted to be glorified himself, worship himself. Pride. And you're going to find out, I think, today why false teachers who are under demonic influence teach this, because it helps to accomplish tries to accomplish one of Satan's objectives. So I want to talk to you about that today. If you have a Bible, you might want to grab one. If you don't, take some notes. Otherwise, guess what? last night till pretty late. I was waiting on my daughter and granddaughter to come into town. And they came into town, landed sometime around midnight, and finally got to the house. So we stayed up to about 2 in the morning. And I used that time waiting for them to come to the house to work and write and research for this article. So I have another article for you, friends. You'll find it over at worldviewtimes.com, worldviewtimes.com. So if you are a professional driver, an over-the-road driver, or you yourself are just in the car, or you're busy at work and you don't have time to take notes or grab a Bible right now, I understand. You'll be able to